all the way. Now it's not one continuous, but and so Bob, as you were talking about that, we'll talk about it during the show, but I was sympathizing with you a little bit because you got to kind of look around. Hey, if you got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition, Home Gadget Geeks. It's Thursday night. I click go live on Spreaker and it's done nothing. The whole reason I go live is for Spreaker. And the thing is just kind of locked up. So we'll see. Oh, that's because it's waiting for a title. I'll give it here in just a second. I've got, let's see, hold on. This part of the video, Home Gadget Geeks. Okay, it's Thursday, the 17th of December, 2020. And if you got this any other time than 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, you've got the recorded version, and that's okay. We're going to get started here in just a minute, as soon as I get Spreaker started. If you are catching this on YouTube after the fact, then you want to join us live, you can always join us on Thursdays, except the next two, which are holidays. But most Thursdays we're out here. We'll say 48 out of 52. We're out here Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out at theaverageguy.tv/live. Hang tight. You guys talk amongst yourselves for a moment, and I will just don't give anything away. And I will
can do
this.
Ryan's not very talkative.
I am what I need to be.
You actually went off. You went off on our podcast.
You full screened me and threw the show all over to me. So
when the pressure's on, your eyes.
I figured you were blowing your nose or something and didn't want it to be on screen. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll talk till he shows back up on screen.
I have to I want to the show to be more interactive. So if you're talking,
you're good.
Make you full screen so people.
Ryan, your mic's a little hot. Is it sound that way to other people, or is it just me?
I think it's just you because I don't hear it.
Okay, it might just be me.
Ryan,
I think I have my volume pretty high.
Check. Can you hear me all right?
A little bit. Hold on. Let me see if I can adjust you 1 second.
I've got it pulled a little closer than normal. I can back it off a bit.
Or I can turn it down just a smidge. We'll try that.
How's that sound? Any better?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Okay.
All right, Home Gadget Geeks.
Good.
All right, there we go. Hey, Spreaker. Sorry that I'm late. Appreciate you guys listening on Spreaker. If you are listening to this on Spreaker and you ever join us live for the live show on YouTube, head out to theaverageguy.tv/live. You can always join us on Thursday nights. So appreciate you listening to us on Spreaker. We'll start here in a second. We're tonight. I didn't announce this last week. We tried it as a test, but because we use StreamYard, we can go live to Twitch and go live to Periscope. So if you're watching us on Twitter or on Twitch, welcome. You can jump in the chat if you want to do that. I'm monitoring all three of those, so you can still chat with us. The bigger group is on YouTube, so if you want to come over to theaverageguy.tv/live. Although if you made it on Twitch, that'd be a miracle to watch me on Twitch because I've never been there before. I think I've had an account for a while. You guys have been gaming on Twitch for a while, right?
Yeah.
I pulled it up and we look pretty good.
Oh. Yeah, StreamYard does a really good job. Actually, that's how I rewatched the show was through Twitch last week, and I was like, oh, it actually looked pretty good. I'm gonna head out there and host you, Jim.
Yeah, it's a pretty good platform. I like it. I tried it. I don't know, 2 years ago, a year ago, whatever it was, whenever they started doing, maybe it's a year ago, StreamYard. And then I was like, nah. And then recently I bought the StreamYard plan that allows me to stream out there. I'm like, well, might as well. You never know, right? So if you're listening on StreamYard, go ahead and jump in the chat room. Let us know you're listening out there. We'll see a little bit of a different icon on that. Are you guys using StreamYard for your show? Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were the ones who got us on the StreamYard.
Got us rolling in on that. So, guys, welcome. Good to see you out there. Checking in. All right. I think we're all set. Let's do this thing. All right. Am I forgetting anything, Mike? I feel a little off tonight. It's like that right before you're in college and you're taking finals. It's right before Christmas break. And all you're thinking about is getting to Christmas break.
Yep.
I guess maybe that's where I'm a little bit today. Kind of thinking like, God, if I could just get to the weekend, things slow down next week. All right, let me do this thing. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 473, recorded on December 17th, 2020. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the Average Guy.tv studios here Mike, we got snow like this weekend, and it's not going away. Like,
that's the weird part. It always goes away.
Christmas.
Like in Omaha, when you have your first snow, it's never cold enough, and then it just goes away. And then, usually January snow, February snow, that sticks around. But yeah, it's still on the ground. It started to melt a little bit today, but it's been nice. My kids love playing in the snow. We have a nice big snowman out in our front yard right now because they couldn't let that go without putting a snowman up.
Odds of a white Christmas here in the Omaha area? You got any odds? I think it's pretty slim.
I think it's pretty slim. I think it's supposed to warm up just enough this weekend that it'll melt, and I don't see any snow in the forecast next week.
Ryan, did you guys get any snow down there in Kansas?
Yeah, we did. We had some last weekend, which, lasted about 12 hours. And then we got some earlier this week, but it pretty much all melted off. So our chance for snow on Christmas, 0.
You're too far south. Bob, you're in the snowpocalypse, right? Is that what's going on right
it's we got about I would say like 8 to 10 inches yesterday, and I just walked the dog, and it's snowing pretty heavily, so probably another I don't know what we're supposed to get tonight, but yeah, I haven't moved my car since yesterday, and I don't plan on it. So.
Do you have to shovel? You own a house. You got to go shovel the sidewalks and stuff.
No, so I live in an apartment complex, so they take care of all the hard stuff.
Nice. Yeah. There's days I long to live in an apartment. You're like, no lawn mowing, no grass care, no shoveling.
See, like now that I've been in, so we were in a townhouse, and then I just moved to this like small apartment before we make our big move. And I miss doing the yard work, and I miss doing all that stuff because it was like a break from like my actual work and other things.
The grass is always greener on the other side. You always end up missing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I say I like it, but I don't really like it. It's a distraction. You're right. It does get you out during the pandemic. Yeah. During the summer, it was a nice distraction. Although, Mike, we had McCabe on, 3 times, twice in person. And we talked all that lawn care stuff, and I spent all this time on my lawn, and my neighbor's lawn across from me, she did nothing. Looks great. Like it looks better than mine. Just like, what a slap in the face. I'm going to go pour gasoline or something on it just because, it's like, hey, I put all this water on it and yours is greener than mine.
I feel like that's kind of like my home network. Like there'll be times where someone will be over and they're like, hey, your network's acting wonky. I'm like, oh, because I have a blocker that's blocking. Yeah. If you're trying to access a website from a certain country, it's like sometimes when you don't mess with it, it's just better than when we all try and make our stuff so fancy. Like my network, I just have way too much stuff going on. Sometimes it ends up being worse than the person who just has a, TP-Link router in their house.
Yeah. We set all these things up. Bob, Ryan, you guys know this. You set up these complicated rigs, or Bob, in this case, we're going to talk a little bit about it. You got a new monitor, the tiny little thing. I mean, barely worth even talking about.
Yeah, it's a little.
49 inches worth. And you start setting things up, and you start having this cascade. Well, since I alluded to it, we'll just tease folks. We're going to talk about this gigantic monitor that Bob has later in the show, so it's coming up. But you start setting these things up, and then it has a cascading effect of problems, right? You're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, now I got to buy this. Oh, I don't have that. Oh, now I really want this, right? And pretty soon, right, Bob? Right?
Yeah. It's just you always want like to keep on upgrading, or you always want to. Okay, I got this. Now I need that. Now I need that, and it never ends. Like. Yeah. I look at my setup now, and you saw from the picture, like it looks awesome, but I'm like, I want 5 more things for my setup,
Yeah. That looks pretty sweet. Like, I mean, yeah, that's a pretty sweet setup. Now, you're not keeping the light on. Oh, as we're seeing this, for those that are listening audio, Bob's got a 49-inch widescreen curved. We're going to get some specs on it here a little bit later. You don't try to work with all those fancy. The lights are really just for visual effect, right?
So I do say that, like, especially when I'm working at night, like having a light behind the monitor is really good. It's actually, like, at least from what I've heard, it's like a blue light or something like that is better for your eyes. Okay. But during the day, I really don't have the lights on like that. And the main reason I got the lights is when I shoot my YouTube videos, this would be like the background. And you got to have like something cool in the background there. So,
well, good for you that you can use it also for the YouTube work. Because they at least you got a purpose behind that. I mean, it looks great. We're gonna dig in to some details here in a second. But we tech guys and ladies have that problem where it just the problems begin to cascade. I've started recently doing another proof of capacity Bitcoin project with Ken, and it's all hard drive based. And so I started replotting files. Mike, you'll appreciate this. I started replotting files on hard drives and stuff. And I think, oh, well, I need to move that hard drive over here and get this. And just touching the hard drives, gone. Like, they were working just fine. And then I would shut them down, unplug them, move them, plug them back in, and then they'd stop working or whatever. And you're like, this thing is sat and spun for 2 years without a problem. The second I move it, it doesn't work anymore. I'm sure you guys, with all the work that you do with builds and stuff, you're putting it together, it doesn't work, you walk away and come back and it does, right, Bob? You're shaking your head.
Yeah,
that probably happens a lot.
There's so many tech things you're like, you get so upset, you're like, this makes absolutely no sense, like, why doesn't this work? And then you like, I'll get frustrated, I'll be like, let me go for a walk or take the dog out, and then I come back and then I turn it on and it works, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was like the last PC build I had. I don't know what it was. I took it apart several times and built it back again because I thought it was something, but there was a certain way, if I kind of touched the case, the whole thing would just shut down. Like, it was just pressure on the case. Like, I think it was shorting something somewhere, but I took it apart, rebuilt it 3 times. In that case, it would just always do it. And, the new computer build, I used some parts from that build and some new, so it hasn't done it since. So something in the new build of the new case didn't do it, but it's just like, it's one of those frustrating problems that you just don't know why, never will.
I've found lately is I have a problem and I'll work on it late, and then I'm just like, I gotta go to bed. It's 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. So you come back the next evening, and in the first 5 minutes, you got to figure it out. Like, you're like, oh yeah, it was that thing, and then it's fixed and you're fine. But you spent 4 hours and you lost sleep. I think sometimes we just need to learn to quit. Well, I didn't introduce them. Let me do that now. Both Bob and Ryan are back from thinkcomputers.org. If you haven't followed that site, if you haven't followed their podcast, head out right now. Go to thinkcomputers.org. Do you guys still have that contest going on? If they do,
we
just ended before. Yeah, earlier in the week, I think.
Yeah, earlier this week. We will have another one soon. I'm working with a couple of companies to get some
nice
prizes going. So.
That was slick. The sign up, like, okay, I remember the old days, and it'd be like, okay, tweet this and Discord that and these kinds of things. And it was a nightmare to track it. But the site, whatever software you're using to track these,
it's called Gleam. I a ton of people use it. And it allows you to integrate, and it allows you to integrate social media. It integrates our newsletter. It integrates Twitch and a bunch of other websites. So when people complete those tasks, they get an entry into the contest.
Yeah. And then it's just a random pick. Because that was always that's what always sucked about giving things away, was the administrative part of counting.
Yeah, I used to way back in the day, I used to print them all out, cut them, and put them in a hat, and then I would record it with an old, I don't know if you remember those little flip cams. I recorded on a flip cam of me picking it out, so people didn't think it was right. They knew who the winner was. So
yeah, no, I hadn't. Apparently I have not, because I stopped entering those kinds of contests a while ago. I'm like, I don't need more stuff, and I don't need more spam and some of those kinds of things. So I think 2 weeks ago, I heard you guys promoting, and I'm like, okay, I need to go out and do all this stuff because it's the right thing to do. So I pop out there expecting I guess expecting the old way. And I signed in and I signed up for the newsletter, and then it was like, okay, here's your scoreboard, and then do these things. And they dynamically updated as I was doing them. Great for engagement, right? In the sense that it kept me engaged, knowing exactly, and I was getting points for it. So that was good. And then I assume easy for you guys too. Does it just pick it for you too? You just
so it has a whole, Gleam has a whole back end where you can go in and you can see everybody that registered. You can, some of our contests are based on location. Mm-hmm. So we can see where the person's located at, and you can double check if somebody say for our contest, you have to subscribe to our newsletter. I can actively in Gleam see if they're subscribed or not. Because a lot of people will subscribe and the next day they'll unsubscribe, and it will still count it.
Right.
So you can do all that kind of cool stuff. And then, you just hit pick winner, and then it just randomizes and picks.
Yeah. No, it's a great way to do it. Okay, so you have a contest coming up. thinkcomputers.org. Make sure you at least sign up for and I think it's weekly, right? You guys send out a weekly newsletter. Is that correct?
We send out anytime we post a new review.
Okay.
Or like our podcast or anything like content besides news, it goes out. So it's like, I would say like 2 to 4 emails a week would go out on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to keep you up to date on what's going on over there, they got great reviews, great hardware. From an audience perspective, if you like this show, you'll really like that show and you'll like the posts over there. So we've had them on a bunch. thinkcomputers.org. You want to head over there and get that done. I will say, I'll remind you too, as well, we continue to partner with Hover. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/hover for your first domain. Get $2 off. We make $2 as well. Great way to support Home Gadget Geeks. Just use theaverageguy.tv/hover. And then I was just chatting with Christian, and then he's got plenty of space for you over at Maple Grove Partners. So if you want to pair that with hosting, get high-speed, reliable hosting from people that you know and you trust. And Christian was just on a couple weeks ago. So maplegrovepartners.com. A little housekeeping before we kick in here. The next 2 weeks, so we're recording, it's December 17th. Next week is December 24th. The week after that is December 31st. Mike told me he would quit if I didn't give him 2 weeks off with pay. So Mike, 2 weeks off with pay.
Oh, good.
All right. There. Okay. It's good.
The beer's still going to come.
Yeah. The beer will still be there.
My beer allowance.
Let's just be really clear. Maybe even a cigar. So next 2 weeks live or off. It'll be nice to take some time off. And are you're guys taking next week off or no? Will you be on next week?
I think we'll be on. Actually, we'll probably be on both because they're on Wednesdays.
Okay.
It's
a perfect time for folks. So if you're missing Home Gadget Geeks, make your way over to thinkcomputers.org and get in on the podcast over there. And well, I'll say thanks for doing that. And then come back and then just listen to both when you come back.
It's like you have one for Wednesday night and then you have one for Thursday night. It's perfect.
Yeah, no, it's good. And you guys do some gaming at the end of yours, right? You do the podcast and then go over to Twitch.
Yeah,
and
go right over to Twitch about 5 to 10 minutes after our podcast ends. Then we'll game there for 2 to 3 hours every Wednesday night.
Jim, we got you on the Xbox train. You and I could do that too. I'd be totally down to switch over.
You got the Twitch channel now.
Yeah, right. You have Twitch already up. There you go. Let's just do it.
I know we're on Twitch. You're never gonna see me gaming.
I know.
That is just never going to happen. Not that I'm anti it. I just am not. That's just not my gig.
It's not your gig.
That's just not my gig. No, I'd rather plot hard drives for Bitcoin currency. Okay, let's dig in. I really wanted you guys on to talk a little bit about and I have a name for it I can't really say on the podcast, but it starts with an S and it ends with show that's going on right now around CPU and GPU sales. I haven't really dug into it, so I'm kind of glad you guys are here because I know you live in this space. Bob, let me throw it over to you. If you were to kind of give me a quick, I came in from another planet and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go buy a CPU. You would tell me, well, first of all, there's none available, but give me a kind of a current state. What's going on in this weird world? There we go, of GPU and CPU purchasing.
Yeah, so I think the bigger one is GPU, but I'll touch on CPU first. AMD just released their 5000 series of processors, which is a huge leap for AMD from the 3000 series, especially in single core performance. It's kind of where Intel had beat them in the previous generation. I've reviewed pretty much all of the 5000 series minus one processor, but that review will come out next week. But they're great, and that's the process that series of processors. They have all the way from a 6-core all the way up to a 16-core. So I could, depending on your price point, I could point to any of those processors. But the sad thing is that you can't find them anywhere. You can't buy them. They're sold out. I know people that had bought them, but their delivery date's not till the middle of January. And on the GPU side, it's sort of the same thing. So NVIDIA just released their 30 series or 3000 series of graphics cards, RTX 3070, 3080, 3090, and they just released the 3060 Ti as well. So again, a bunch of different price points, incredible performance from the previous generation, and a considerable price drop as well. So you're going to get a card for like $600 that was 1,000 in the previous generation, the same amount of performance. So everybody wants these cards, but on the GPU side, you can't buy anything. Like nothing's in stock anywhere, whether it's a physical store, whether it's an online store. The only place that you can get these new GPUs is eBay, and people are selling them for 3 to 4 to 5 times as much as the retail price, which obviously you don't want to pay.
Right.
And then on the even worse side of that, the 20 series, which has been out for what, 2 years, Ryan?
Oh, at least.
Yeah. The 20 series, those are even hard to find, and people are selling those for more than what they should be sold for as well. And of course, if you're building a new PC, you don't want the older series because just the value is not there anymore. But that's all that's available, which is really sad.
Yeah. Well, the value's not there, but the value is there because people are right.
Yeah,
paying the price for some of these things.
The weird part is on the GPU though. Those came out a while. When I say a while ago, right? Like, wasn't like 2 months ago, 2-3 months ago.
I looked this up ahead of time. So September 17th is when the 30 series launched, right?
And they still haven't fixed their supply issues. Is this on purpose?
3 months in.
I wouldn't say it's on purpose. I would say that one, with the whole, I guess I'll say COVID situation, even though you're probably going to get flagged on YouTube now because I said that word.
That's all right.
But yeah, because of that whole situation, maybe they weren't able to produce as much, or they just didn't know the demand would be so high because the demand is crazy.
Yeah.
And when it comes to making GPUs, like whatever order they put into TSMC, who makes the actual physical GPU, that process for that order is like months. So they put an initial order of say like 1 million GPUs or whatever it is. Until the next order, it's a 2-month wait until that supply, that supply would go down. So maybe they underestimated. Also, with everything else that goes on the GPU, there's all those supply constraints as well. That's what, at least in my opinion, that's what I think is kind of going on. Either it's a mix of COVID and just the demand for these parts.
And do you think that go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead, Mike.
Do you think the demand is high? Because when I was thinking about this, because like I had a 1060 graphics card. I went up to a 1660, which was, looking back now that I know what came out, not the best purchase. But I think a lot of people were pretty happy with the 1000 series cards. And so when the 20 series cards came out, it was kind of that first gen ray tracing. I think people were like, well, we'll give it one more generation for that to get a little better. Price may come down. So you probably have a huge influx of, first of all, the people who are on the 1000 series cards that want to now upgrade to ray tracing. But then with the price decline, you probably have enticed a lot of even the 2000 series card people to like, hey, if I could upgrade, and then if I could take advantage of selling this card, if people still want, my card, it probably just like, the demand kind of seems like it would be there from all sides.
So before the 3000 series launch, we saw like a 2080 Ti, which was what was that, $1,200, Ryan?
$1,200, yeah, is what
$1,200 card. Before the 3000 series launch, people were like, I'm selling my 2000 series. So we saw like the highest end card, which was 2080 Ti, $1,200 card. I think the lowest it went on eBay was maybe $400 or something. So like people were trying to get rid of these like crazy to get the new card, and then the new card came out, and then it just messed up everything because there weren't any available. And then somebody got that card for $400 that they could resell it for basically $1,200 again because there's no cards available.
There's no supply. Wow. Yeah. And that poor guy is stuck without a card, probably the one that originally sold it, hasn't been able to get it, and wow.
Yeah, but you're completely correct. Like first gen ray tracing, it was, I wouldn't say it was a big failure for NVIDIA, but not enough games supported it initially. The actual raw performance of a 2080 Ti versus a 1080 Ti wasn't the best. Like it's not a huge leap as far as raw performance. Whereas the 3000 series, like it's a massive leap, especially over the 1 or 10 series or 1000 series. But even over the 20 series, it's a big leap in performance, and the prices are dramatically lower. So everybody wants it. And again, I think COVID has a lot to do with that too, because so many people right now are just at home and they're like, well, if I have to work from home, I'm going to buy I'm going to build myself a nice new PC so I can game as well. Or, a company might be like, here's, you have this X amount of money to build yourself a PC to work from home. There's all that stuff going on. So it's a mess.
Yeah, maybe I should go back to my 1060 and sell the 1660. Tajowski just said there's a market for that 1660, but hey, join the game. Players got to play, right?
Right. It's a mess, and I feel so bad because again, like we've talked about it on our podcast. So many of my friends, not even big PC people, but they know I'm the PC guy. They're like, I'm building a new PC. I have $1,500, like, and I want to be like, AMD 5000 series. A new 3000 series graphics card, but I'm like, just wait. You have to wait a couple months because there's no point. And I don't want you to build something now that's last gen, or because you're not, because like I would feel so bad because it's just older hardware that's not as good, but you're going to pay full price for it. Now it's just,
or you can get like the CPU or like get the motherboard, but now you've waited for the CPU and now the next iteration coming out in 4 months, right? And you're like, well, I didn't even get to use that, and it's you just waste money.
On that 5000 series CPU you mentioned, is that the same socket as the 3000 series CPUs? They stuck with the same. Wow.
Yeah, so it will slot right into X570 or B550 motherboard, no problem.
And the X570. Now I need a better CPU. Dang it.
Yeah.
All right, I might have some new parts. Well, I can't order it. See, this is great. I'm glad it's out of stock because otherwise, this show I would be spending a lot of money. Right
this
now.
is dangerous for Mike when we start.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah. He has things ordered usually by the time we're done. Bob, you done
usually have things sold by the time we're done.
Well, bought and sold. Let's just
right.
Really clear. And used, and you wrote a blog post about it. And it's like, I was like, man, he was quiet. Bob, I think you posted an article on your site about some NVIDIA cards being stolen as well. Have we had some thievery in the process?
Let me find it on the site real quick before you.
There've been a lot of issues, the one that we'll talk about here, but just all sorts of shenanigans related to these GPUs. It's really sad, from theft to just the extent of the bots buying up all the inventory from NVIDIA and the lengths they're having to go to try and get these cards into the hands of legitimate purchasers. So it's really sad.
The bots. Well, Bob, while you're finding that, take your time. The bots seem to be, and this is like this sales cycle, starting with the Xbox and the PS5. I've never heard so many people, and I think I even heard Joe maybe on Twitter say that more and more people are using bots to purchase these things. Is that also becoming a problem? I mean, yeah, we have theft. Bob, talk about this article a little bit that you posted there.
Yeah, so $336,500 worth of MSI RTX 3090 graphics cards were stolen. So, I guess you would say, like, back in the day, I think Ryan talked about this on our podcast, like people would steal like DVD players out of, off a truck or whatever. And this is kind of like the same thing, but it's with graphics cards, which is crazy. But this happened over in China, outside of their factory, and they said that 40 containers with an estimated value of 2.2 million won, which is about $336,000, which would be 224 RTX 3090 graphics cards were stolen, and those are selling anywhere. It's a $1,400 card that's selling anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 on the black market or eBay, if you want to call it that.
That's quickly become the black market, right?
Yeah, but it's like you would hear these stories about TVs and other things, but you would never hear it about graphics cards. But the demand for them is so high that people are going to break the law to get a bunch of these and illegally sell them. Do
you think like crypto is at 2,100 or 2,000,
22?
Where is
23 even today?
Tonight, like I am just struggling to say words. $22,000, right? For do you think there's any drive? GPU mining is out. Like you just can't. I can't put these two together and say, one that
I think it's more the political climate. I would say for crypto. I have a bunch of crypto. that I've had for years, which I'm
Yeah.
very happy that it's very high. But yeah, I would say that's one of the big factors that it's going up. I
think
would
so.
say.
I mean, I think just the lack, the sheer opportunity to make the money because it's such a hot commodity and limited resources, right? Like, hey, there's only so many of these. I can steal them and make a ton of money.
I haven't done a lot of work in knowing if these new graphics cards compete with ASICs at all, because those were, I mean, for the longest time, I still think an ASICs box would be still, X number of times faster than any GPU could do. I just thought we had moved on from that, but
it was never. It got to the point where it wasn't profitable because your electricity bill would be too high.
Yeah.
So like I always used to this was like years ago, but like
I see.
there were places that you could like rent that were like electricity was included, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna like buy a bunch of GPUs and just have them mine all day. I mean, I'm not paying for electricity.
I guess at $22,000, coin, all of a sudden you start thinking, well, I mean, it's making now, that's 5, 6, 7 times what it was a year ago. At this point, maybe it does make financial sense. Maybe that is driving.
I have to think about that because I do have a bunch. So typically AMD graphics cards are better, and I have a bunch that are right over here that are just sitting in boxes. So maybe I should
close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Maybe.
No, I don't know. Mike, it caused me, Nice Hash, which we used early on.
I used that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They had that hack back in 2018 and a bunch of people lost a lot. I didn't have a lot, so I lost some. They've been repaying that back. And I bet they wish they had paid it all back before it got expensive to pay it back, because they're paying the final payment was yesterday. What is today? The 17th? Yeah, the final payment was yesterday for everybody. So, by the way, if you are in Nice Hash at all, you might want to go, and maybe you forgot about it. You might want to go log back.
I might have to check that out.
You might have a few dollars.
Any of that stuff. Yeah.
You might have a few dollars.
I used to always like, as soon as I hit a certain amount on Nice Hash, I always transfer it.
Yeah.
Like transfer it out.
Remember the good old days when that wasn't a taxable event?
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder, okay, I don't know. Before I was going to poo-poo the whole Bitcoin thing, I was going to make fun of it. But now that I started doing the financials on it, you're like, okay, maybe that's part of it. I think the PC build, you guys mentioned this just a second ago, the PC build thing too, I think is a big deal. I think a lot of people are building right now. Mike, don't you think?
A lot of people are building it, and like I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of people are upgrading, right? Because I think a lot of people skipped that 2000 series card to get like I did, right? I mean, I went with the 1660 just so I can get the Turing architecture and have a little bit better. Back when I was streaming, it did better. Now I'm gonna. Guys, when you do the encoding on your GPU for streaming, I can never remember what that's called now. NVENC or something like that. Instead of CPU hardware transcoding, I use the NVENC encoder. And it's a little bit better with the Turing architecture on the 1660, because the 1660 had the 2000 series Turing. It just didn't have ray tracing. So I think a lot of people are just upgrading. And I know, but like you said, for some reason, even non-tech people that I know are really kind of getting into this building thing. My brother-in-law is a perfect example. He just built his first PC this year, and he's like addicted to it. He convinced my father-in-law that his mom needed a new computer, and he's like, just let me build it. Just give me the budget. Let me go build it. And he had a blast with it. So we're giving her that this weekend. He's super excited. He built a sweet little computer for her, customized, because she's a photo editor. She's not a gamer, so she didn't need big graphics cards. She needed more beefy CPU, and he did all the research. And I mean, it's a thing now, and especially with like people like Think Computers and YouTube, there's just so much available information. I think a lot of people are switching, and gaming. We were in this phase right before the new Xbox and PlayStation came out, where PC was just killing the game as far as like, if you wanted the game to look good, like I have gone back and forth between my Xbox One and my PC, and it is just like, I can't believe I played on the Xbox for so long. Now the new generation consoles are out, so that might not be as much of a motivation before, but man, for the time leading up to that, where the consoles were really lagging, people were kind of starting to switch over to PC Master Race and check it out. So I think it's kind of like the perfect storm of everything leading up to these all being sold out. You add in the human virus and everything like that, and it was just crazy. I didn't expect it to last this long, though. That was my big thing. Like, Ryan, you said September was when these things came out. I thought they would have had the supply chain fixed by now, but Apparently
Yeah.
not.
There's rumors that it will be fixed in like end of February, but I
It's
don't.
still a long
Yeah.
time away.
Is there anything on the AMD side as far as GPUs? I know that they were
Yeah,
making some announcements too, right?
They
Yeah,
announced
but
their
same problem
6000.
there.
Yeah.
Really?
And same problem. So they announced 6800, 6800 XT, and 6900 XT, all which do compete with NVIDIA's products.
Pretty
within their
well.
Yeah, very well.
I haven't got them into
Really?
tests, so I don't know, like personally. But from what I've seen, they're pretty competitive.
It is dramatic as like Ryzen versus Intel, where like Ryzen all of a sudden was just like if you were building a PC, you were
I
going
wouldn't say
Ryzen.
it's, at least from what I've seen, it's not that dramatic, but
Okay.
it's good. It gives you a viable option if you're like an AMD guy, or you can't get a 20 series, but at the same time, you can't get this new 6000 series of GPUs either.
Got it.
They're sold out everywhere as well. So it's kind of like you can't.
It's like 2 years ago when you'd go into Fry's and all the GPUs were cleaned off the because that was a
Yeah.
crypto thing, right?
Yeah.
And people were just dying, like I can't get it. How much of it do you think too is that because there's nothing there, people want them more? It's just kind of that scarcity,
Yeah.
in it.
We had a couple stories about that like crypto miners are buying the new NVIDIA cards. I forget how many millions of dollars an analyst said that like crypto, the new 3000 series is being used for crypto. So
yeah, it's crypto grew quietly. It's like 2 years ago at its peak. So December 2018 at its peak, 21,000. And then it just plummets, in January, it kind of just falls off the cliff. And I think it bottoms out around 3,000, right? And this climb has just been a steady, I've kind of stayed with it. We've been talking about it a little bit, but it's pretty quiet. Like you don't hear 2 years ago, I mainstream press was writing about it. I don't see anybody like it when it peaked again. I haven't seen anybody write about it, to be honest. Mike, have you seen
I'm seeing different styles of articles. So I think it's the space I'm in. I think because I see about a lot on LinkedIn. Obviously, I'm in the financial advisory space, and institutional investors and institutional platforms bringing crypto to financial advisors to be able to allow their clients to now have Bitcoin as part of a blended portfolio is becoming really big and actually like. I don't want to say easy to do, but these institutional people who are offering it are making it easy for advisors to do it. And so I've been seeing those kind of articles, which Jim, you and I talked back when we were going through the mining thing. We're like, we're going to see a shift where we start to talk about the usefulness of this stuff rather than mining and all that. And we're still in the context of it being an investment instead of being a good vehicle for moving money around. But I think that's just the next phase. I think we're getting the investors in as far as the average investor, not having to have a Coinbase account, but they can do it through their financial advisor and just know that that's part of their portfolio and they benefit from a rise in the crypto market. But man, I tell you, I predicted wrong. It was because it's really been the last month that it shot up because I sold back in November. I thought it was going to dip a little bit. And I was like, well, and we had some house expenses we needed to do. And it's like, well, I won't pull from savings too. I'll just sell some crypto because I think it's going to go down. Well, man, was I wrong because it has more than doubled since in November when I sold. I was like, well, played that one wrong. So I still haven't decided when to jump back in because it's just been on an upward climb.
Yeah, it's tough. It's I always say after the new year it's going to go down. That's my prediction. So I have I just have like crypto that I just keep. It's just like it will never move at all. And then I have like, I have some that I just play with that, I sell and I buy and I sell and and then I have an account where like some of our ads on our site, people pay us with crypto. So like that's just like I've had stuff in there for like years. So it's just like that money has just gone up, which is nice.
It's fun to see. Ryan, do you have any?
Just a small little bit. Like I just always go back to the thought in my head, talking to my boss at work, going, overnight, did you Bitcoin went from $25 to $50? And I remember talking to him, I was like, I was almost about to buy one last night and buy some. And, and I was like, oh, but $50, like, nah, I don't, man.
Yeah.
It just makes me sick.
You got to buy it at that worst possible when everything in your body says don't. That's when you have to do it. Like that's
I got
the
on the
right
first
time.
point. It's worth 0.002 cents, I think. So
Yeah. Well, I think PayPal is accepting, or you can now buy Bitcoin through PayPal. I think that was just announced like in the last couple weeks that they just turned that on. So yeah, I'm not saying that's fueling it. It's just kind of these all come together in a really unique time. It's Christmas time. We're smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. We had the Xbox and the PS5. Did I get that right? It's PS5, right?
Mm-hmm.
PS5 launch going on. Then we have these, the new build. Is memory having a similar problem, or is that pretty memory and hard drives? So now's the time to buy memory and hard drives, right? Is that right?
There were so many good deals on Black Friday.
There was talks though. What was the factory that had an hour of
the Micron factory?
Yeah, the Micron factory just a week or two ago had an hour of a power outage, and they were saying how much it's going to affect prices. In the
for an hour.
Yeah. So, they have things so tight on the line, right?
Yeah.
They've perfected it. I say perfected because an hour goes down and you're having this many issues, but
I'm sure there's things that
buy.
shut down, right? And then they got to fire back up. So, okay, but last time you guys were on, we talked about SSDs and M.2s, and so with that market not being in the limelight, there's no shortages there. If I was going to upgrade hardware, would now be the time? Should I be buying more memory space? I think I saw an M.2 2 terabyte drive at a pretty reasonable price, right?
Yeah, I mean the prices are really good. Like I said, Black Friday was like a perfect time to buy because there were so many M.2 SSDs, which is like an incredible. People don't realize, like, oh, it's just like this little thing, but the amount of performance, even from like a traditional SSD. So like a traditional SSD maxes out about 550 megabytes a second. And if you move up to like an NVMe M.2 SSD, you're looking at 3,500 megabytes a second on max speed. So that amount of upgrade, I would say it's almost like going from a traditional hard drive to an SSD. Now you're going from that 2.5 inch SSD to an M.2. It's like the same type of upgrade. You'll instantly notice the difference. Windows is going to load faster if it's your OS drive. If it's your game drive, games are going to load so much faster. It's the upgrade that I think everybody should do. And prices are good right now. I think they're good, minus what happened at the Micron factory. I think that prices will continue to go down and the capacities will continue to go up. We've seen a couple people offer 8 terabyte. I don't think anybody's up to 16. Is there?
I don't think so. I know Sabrent was going to have their 8 terabyte NVMe drive available
now.
And I think they were working on a 16 terabyte 2.5 inch drive.
I'm so excited for my mother-in-law to get her computer this weekend because she's going from a 2010 iMac with a spinner as the OS to now an NVMe SSD and a Ryzen. He didn't go 5 series. He went.
She has like not waiting on the computer to turn on and do things, right?
Well, I didn't know how bad it had gotten. I went down there. She's like, "Hey, can you do your traditional monthly cleanup whenever you come down here next?" And I was like, "Does it normally take 3 minutes to launch Chrome?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." And she goes, "I usually do that, and I'll go make my tea, and then I'll come back, and sometimes it'll be up and ready for me to go." I was like, "Okay," and she's gonna be extremely excited. I'm like, I don't even know how. That's bad. And then she fully edits photos on this thing. I'm like, I don't even know how you do that. So we'll see. It'll be fun.
It's a sweet spot. A 2 terabyte, 1 terabyte. If I was, and Bob, you got this cool little adapter. I saw this. I checked in on the show. And you got this cool little adapter. Maybe you can bring that up on the screen here in a second. But if I were going to jump in on this, where's the right entry point right now?
I would say 1 terabyte is pretty much the sweet spot. The price makes most sense at 1 terabyte. If you do jump to 2 terabyte, things get a little bit more expensive. But I would say 1 terabyte. There's a lot of good drives out there. There's actually a ton of good drives. They're all pretty much the same type of part per se. A lot of them use the same parts. Just do your research, I would say. But if you're on an older computer, there's something like this, which is a little adapter. So a lot of older PCs, which a lot of your viewers might have, don't have the M.2 slot that's required for these super fast drives. But this goes in the same slot as your graphics card. So you have your graphics card in one slot, and then you have this little guy, and your motherboard has 2 or 3 graphics card slots. This where this goes in. And if you switch over to my screen, I can show you kind of what's on the what it basically is. It's an M.2 slot or M.2 slot that's on a riser, and it gives you the same amount of speed as normally plugging it in. So this is like, I think this, how much was this, Ryan? $14.99? $17.99. It's like $17.99. And then you buy an M.2, and then on any system you can have, any within the past, I would say, 10 years, PCI Express 3.0, Ryan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You would have a super fast either OS drive or game drive or whatever it may be. And on top of that, if you do have a new motherboard that has M.2 slots and you have those full, this allows you to add an extra M.2. Is kind of what I did on my main PC. Is I have all M.2 storage, and I use a couple of these to give me even more space on there. So I can show you how it just goes right in. Like this is like a graphics card slot, and it just goes right in there.
Which
it has
that price point for that card, and for the price point that you were just talking about NVMe, like why not? I didn't even think about going all NVMe, to even taking out some of my standard SSDs and one spinner I have for games that I don't play anymore.
Yeah, so I think like a Sabrent 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, which is really, really good. We reviewed it. I think it's called their Rocket Q, I believe it is. I think it's like 120 or 120, 130 for a 1 terabyte plus the $17 for this. It's a no-brainer, honestly.
Do you have it, Ryan? You got it right there?
So I was up here. So he had the 2 terabyte version of the Rocket Q here.
Yeah. If you click on that link, Ryan, that's right there, it should bring you to the 1 terabyte, which is how much is the 1 terabyte?
Yeah, 109.98. So.
Yeah, 109 plus an extra 17 for this. It's like, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. That's one of those price points you're like, okay, for $115, or $120, I'm gotta wait,
performance to a system that maybe wouldn't have had that as an option prior to this.
Yeah.
No, it as you guys were talking about it, I was like, oh, that could be handy in some spots. And
yeah, it's good because, again, a lot of people, M.2 SSDs only just became pretty popular the past couple of years, and a lot of people have older systems, but almost all of those older systems have an extra PCI Express slot, which this goes into, so it just makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing I didn't know when I was first starting to look at those, that for anyone who's new to this whole, like, if you're still running just a standard SSD, this is the first time, they do have, and Andrew brought this up in the chat, it's a good point to bring up, they have M.2 SATA, so you can get a SATA, which is going to be a lot slower. That's essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's like the same speed as your standard SSD, just using the M.2 connector, right? So it's just the new profile, whereas M.2 NVMe is where you're going to see those speeds that Bob was talking about.
Yeah, so the difference, if you guys want to know, the difference between those two is that the NVMe or something like this is going across the PCI Express bus, which is, I don't know the actual speed, but it's fast. And then the M.2 SATA, or your normal your normal SATA SSD, is going across SATA connection, which is limited in its speed or bandwidth.
And then we didn't even talk about all the NVMe we've been talking about now in these PCI slots is version 3. There's a version 4 that's even faster, but right now limited to the newer AMD systems. So.
Yeah.
Well,
so like the fast, or go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bob.
The fastest, like if you have like that drive we just showed you on Amazon, that's Gen 3. That will work on pretty much with this adapter, work on a lot of older systems, and a lot of newer systems have a Gen 3 connector. Now, on new AMD systems, X570 and B550 have Gen 4, which I think the new drives that are just coming out max out at around 7,000 megabytes a second, which is very fast. So you're going from 3,500 to 7,000. But the initial ones that I've reviewed are around 5,000, but the newer ones that I haven't reviewed yet are around like 7,000. So
I think Andrew makes a good point in the chat. Make sure you're checking those PCIe slots to make sure they are what they say they are.
Yeah.
You know what they are.
Yeah. So for this to work, it has to be an X4. Yeah, it has to be an X4. So it won't work in an X1 slot. It has to be an X4. Most of the ones, most mainstream motherboards, all of the longer slots, like I showed you in the picture, all of those are X16 physical, but are typically X4 electrical. So if you would actually look at this from above, you could see the pins that are in the actual slot. As long as they're more than like this little end right here, you can see like the pins kind of go out to right here. It's kind of really hard to see in this picture, but that would mean this slot is X4, so it would support it. But most motherboards, all of the X16 slots, I've never seen an X16 slot that's X1 ever.
Right. Well, and usually that first slot on a modern motherboard is X16.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So if that's open, if you don't have a video card in there, because a lot of folks put video cards in there, you could probably move your video card down. Then put
you typically want your video card in the top slot. But again, if you're running like a normal ATX motherboard, you should have at least one more X16 slot, if not two.
I was looking at my X570 to see. I'm like, and I do have an extra 16 slot. I could get another.
Yeah.
I guess I have two M.2 slots on this slide. I mean, forgot about that. So I would fill that one up. I could have three though.
Yeah, I have six.
I like it. You have six in that one computer. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's goals. That's what I need.
It's pretty. I mean, it's just this is, we got, as I was talking about Bitcoin, about buying it when the whole world is telling you not to. That's the time to actually buy. We're in that spot with the hardware where there's so much focus on, GPU, CPU. This is the time. I mean, I bought an 8 terabyte spinner for $120, and you're like, well, okay, that's pretty cheap for where they had been. Yeah, a couple years ago, they're 150. So it's not like they've come down to 99 or 49, but that's still pretty cheap. And so I think space, like if you're short on space right now is probably the time to start looking at. I mean, I can get a refurb 4 terabyte drive for $40, and you're like, okay.
Well, I need to replace some of my NAS drives because the one's going bad. It's been going bad for a while, and I just haven't replaced it.
Yeah. Now would be the time, Bob. Now would be the time.
Yeah.
Mike?
Well, I was going to say, I think the next jump, because I've been surprised actually that spinners are staying as expensive as they are. But I guess I have to remember that because, I assume all data centers, they're not using anything, 8 or below, probably less than 10. I don't know what they're using, but so I've been surprised that market of like 4 to 8 terabytes is still as high as it is, because I don't think a lot of people are doing home storage. This community is. We all are, obviously. We have a NAS with some drives in it. I think that'll come down more as the SSD capacity expands up, right? Because if I could start replacing, just because I haven't wanted to replace my parity drive, I have 8 drives in my Unraid box, and they're all 4 terabytes or less because that's what my parity disk is. So I've always just bought 4 terabytes, and they're still pretty expensive. But man, if I could go like pure SSD in there, that'd be great. But I don't need to because it's just, it's cold storage essentially.
You have to remember too that like that physical hard drive is a big piece of hardware, and it has the what are the platters or whatever inside. So
true.
That drive itself costs far more to produce when like an NVMe drive is a PCB with like a couple chips on it. There's no moving parts. There's nothing like that. So that's another reason why you don't see those drives go down in price, because there is a cost associated with producing a bigger.
That's a really good point. You're right. It's probably way more expensive for them to do.
Yeah.
Andrew makes a good point. We've had a lot of conversation about this SMR drives, at about the 8 terabytes and above. A lot of the cheaper drives are SMR, which, if you're running in a RAID or an array or some of those kinds of things, can cause some issues in there. It depends on your data use and like what kind of files you're putting in there and such. But now I think now is the time to review your data, and to say, Bob, like, if you're in a spot with your NAS box and you're like, okay, maybe I need to expand that out a little bit. I think now is the time to kind of think through, like, what do I put in there and how much do I need? Because it's cheap, especially on the refurb or on the used market on eBay. I got some HGST. Is that the right? Did I get those letters in the right order?
Yep.
HGST drives that have been dynamite. Now, my son's cat just pulled the whole PC over, and I lost a couple drives as it smashed to the ground.
That's the biggest thing with those old drives is there's moving parts.
Yeah.
And with like an SSD, you can like throw it against the wall, and it, won't have those
well,
issues.
but for the longest time, you couldn't get that kind of space in solid state. And so now we're getting to that point where we're getting close. I think within a year or two, we're going to see 2 and 4 terabyte SSDs that, people are going to be like, why even go to a spinner? So that'll drive some of those prices down. So, Bob, I want to shift a little bit. We kind of let off with this, but I want to shift back to your monitor that you just purchased. And, typically I got, at work, they gave me a 34-inch ultra wide screen, Dell. It's beautiful. And I get kind of two. It's not really like having 2 screens. It's kind of like having 0.75 screens on each side, but it kind of works, right? It's a beautiful monitor. You tell us a little bit about what do you have in your desk now, and we'll bring up the picture.
So I didn't buy this. The company had sent it to me. I kind of proposed to them this idea of me reviewing it, and my whole thing was I sit in front of my computer and I'm working. I'm doing work, right? So the whole idea was moving. I had a 34-inch ultra wide as well, and I've always seen these 49s, and I always wanted one. And my whole thing was, what's the difference, productivity wise, going from a 34 to a 49? Because as you said, with a 34, you have 2 windows. That's how I used it. I would have work on one side and work on the other side, and that's how I would be productive, right? So with this is the Viotech SUW49DA, which is a 49-inch ultra wide. It's 1440p. So the resolution is 5120 wide by 1440 high, which is really nice. And it's 144 hertz as well. So when it comes to gaming, you're still getting, 144 hertz, which is really great for fast-paced games and things like that. And actually the monitor, the 34-inch that I was using previously, was only 100 hertz. So I literally set it up about a week ago. And as you can see, I have all my RGB lights and everything like that. But as far as the monitor itself, the way I'm using it now is I have it split the monitor into 3 sections. So I have a screen here, like a window here, window here, window here. And I'm using an
center, right?
Yeah. And I'm using an application called Display Fusion to do that, which is actually really cool because I was kind of lost when I got all this screen real estate. I was like, I don't know how to do this. And I want it to be, again, for productivity, I just want to be able to snap my windows, and with Windows snapping, it doesn't work like you would want it.
They don't have a center concept, do they? It's left and right only.
Yeah, it's left and right only. It didn't work. So I got this app called Display Fusion, which is it's free. It allows you to split your monitor however you see fit, which is pretty cool. So I have it set up like that. And I really like it. It was honestly very weird at first because I'm used to just sitting straight and looking like straight into my monitor. And now I look like this, but I have so much more screen real estate, which is nice. And I got like an RGB kit off of Amazon for the back of the monitor to do this cool look, as you can see. But yeah, I really like it so far. I haven't, it's been, like I said, it's been about a week, I would say, since I got it all set up.
It does take a little bit of getting used to. I joke in the command center, I've got 2 27-inch monitors and then a 24 over here, another 27 on this side. They're all separate. A couple of them are on different PCs using mouse without borders to get across them. And then on the end of the desk here is a 34. So I literally wrap, I don't know, it's not 360, but it's more than 180. And I am kind of swiveling around all day. I imagine with a 49-inch monitor, it's kind of getting used to just all that real estate, right? Where you're putting things and where to look, right?
Yeah. So like my main center screen is like typically what I'm working on. Like if I'm writing an article, and then as I'm writing the article, I'll have like my pictures or whatever I'm referencing for the article over here. Over here, I'll have like email or something like that. Yeah, it's just getting used to kind of where the screens are and what's most comfortable. But yeah, I really like the monitor so far. It's nice. It's huge though. It's like it is really like wide. It's just big. So you definitely need a desk that has all that amount of space, I would say.
How did you mount it in the back? Does it have two mounts? Is it on a single mount? Is it heavy?
It's on a single stand. It's decently heavy. I was gonna get it. I'm a huge fan of monitor arms because I don't like there's a stand right here and it's just in the way, and I can lift it up with the monitor arm. But I'm moving in April, so I'm just gonna wait till that happens to get a monitor arm. But yeah, it's just on a single, like a normal monitor stand that came with it.
Retail is $900, and I actually expected like 15 for that size.
Yeah.
And so, Mike, when I say 900, and if you were thinking about getting an ultra bougie, as my kids would say, bougie widescreen, what do you think? $900?
I think that's a great price. Well, and because I was looking at monitors before, and my objectives have changed a lot. If I could ever decide and stick with one hobby, that would really help me pick out a monitor, because like when I was into Twitch streaming, it's really beneficial to have like your gaming monitor and then a separate monitor. And actually, even for me, I have 4, right? I had my Spotify up top. I had, Streamlabs doing the stream on one. And then I have my gaming and then chat on the other one. So like I was using all 4. And I don't Twitch stream anymore, so that's not a big idea. But I still game on the PC, so I love having my main monitor, and I'll usually watch football while I'm gaming. If there's something on, so I'll put on something. So Ryan, you touched on it with Display Fusion, but how does that work when it comes to gaming? Could you still game in the center and have real estate on the sides? How do games handle like full screen versus windowed? I'm curious how that all works.
Yeah. So basically, this Display Fusion. So I have it separated into 3 slices, you could say. It acts as if each slice is a separate monitor.
Okay.
So the game will see whatever that slice is. Now the slice with the 49-inch, the slices aren't like a traditional size.
Right.
So basically what I do is I just disable the slices so it's the full thing. And then I play with like a 1440p window in the middle, and then I'll have like our stream on the side or something else on the side. But what's really nice about this monitor as well, for like you have an Xbox, is that it does you can display 2 displays on this. So it has multiple inputs. So it has I think it has 3 HDMI inputs, or maybe 2 DisplayPort, 2 HDMI, I forget. But you can do multiple inputs, so you can have like you can have the your football game on one side, and then you can be doing your work or gaming on the other, or you can have PC gaming on one side and Xbox gaming on the other, right side by side.
Or could you even do two from your graphics card, just 2 different wires coming in and have it split that way? So then then the monitor is kind of handling that split. Let's say if you didn't want to run Display Fusion for whatever reason, you could run two wires, just like I am to my 4, just run 2 in there and literally have 2 split screens then.
Yeah, you could do that.
Oh, I like that's built in though, because you're right. There are a lot of times with me that I have to, when I turn my Xbox on, I can't use the center one for the computer anymore. But yeah,
it's nice. This actually, I don't have it here, but the monitor actually came with a remote that allows you to switch and do all that stuff very easily.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. It would all be about the Jim. I think you talked about too, is like the productivity. Is could I be as productive? Now, this isn't the area where I work, just because I have to use my work laptop for work, and I'm not going to switch around all the cords. So I actually just set up upstairs with 1 extra monitor on my laptop when I'm working from home. So this is more entertainment section for me, which kind of changes the use case a little bit, right? Because I'm not sitting here doing my Excel sheets and all of my presentations that I would usually do. So I think that could work actually pretty darn well for me down here. Now you got me thinking.
And the thing is, sorry, Jim, you can go.
Good.
So Viotech, it might not be a company that you've heard, but it's like one of these companies that it's like the monitor is like a no frills monitor. It doesn't have like a USB hub on it. It doesn't have anything. But the actual glass that it's made out of, because all screens, it's Samsung glass. So it's the same type of glass you'll find in like a Samsung monitor, but without all the bells and whistles of, say, the Samsung monitor.
That's my style. For me, all three of these monitors are stuff I got from like a surplus business that was going out. I don't even know. I think they're 1080p. I do have one nice gaming monitor that I paid money for, but that would be great for me because all you really care about, is really the size. Number one, does it look good to the eye? It doesn't need to be amazing, but does it look good? Now, does that have HDR or not?
Technically, it does, but it's not. It's HDR 400, which I don't consider real HDR.
Got it. Yeah, right. I don't either. Okay.
It's definitely bright though. But again, it's HDR 400, so it's not like so. I would say like HDR starts at like HDR 1000, like 1000 its brightness. That's where you get that. But I think for me, like I'm a mix of gaming and productivity, probably more on the productivity side. But this is 144 hertz. That it can push that no problem. My graphics card obviously can push that no problem. So I can game at 1440p, 144 hertz, play like fast-paced games like Apex Legends. You know what I mean? And So
I think that's it, right? On Amazon as well.
Yeah, so that is it. There's the remote and everything that comes with as well.
A good looking, and I could see with your stand. Like I would not like that stand on my.
Yeah, I've like ever since I got a monitor arm like years ago, I just have never wanted a stand ever again. But
they're showing it in 2-screen mode here.
Yeah.
Did you try it? Because that really would be 2 widescreens as opposed to 3. Like they're like 0.85.
Yeah, I've tried a bunch of different modes so far. For me, productivity wise, the 3 is the best. But yeah, I meant like when I first hooked it up, I was like, what am I doing with all this space?
It does take a little bit of getting used to, right?
Yeah.
When you look at that, you're like, wow. It's actually wider than it looks on that picture.
Yeah, that one might give you, I don't know, maybe a better idea of it. But yeah, it's definitely super wide. I have like my desk is, I guess, the XL version of this desk, so it's a very big desk as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you have space per se on your desk for it.
Andrew said in chat, he's like, I don't have room for that.
Yeah.
Wide. Yeah. Yeah. It'd be nice. You got me thinking about it. I probably won't, but because I already have all these monitors down here, and you're kind of like, do I really need to replace? Everything's working. This is the hard part about modern technology is stuff just is not breaking fast enough. Like I have old monitors. They're just fine. They work just great. And you're like, can I really justify, I've got hard drives that have lasted me 7, 8, 9 years, and you're trying to squeeze out every kind of, dollar that you paid for them out of them. And so the technology is just not breaking. Go ahead, Ryan.
It looked like Viotech has like a no dead pixel policy on that monitor as well. So even if, a lot of times companies would say, oh, we're not going to give you a new monitor until you have more than 1 pixel bad in a certain area of the screen or something. But with this, you got a pretty good guarantee at having a good screen there. And if not, getting it replaced, which is pretty nice. I've been happy with the Viotech that I've got here. I've got a 27-inch 1440p, 144 hertz from them, and I love it.
And you don't have to have a gigantic monitor to use this display fusion, right? I mean, it's got some advanced features in there.
You can have any size monitor that'll work on it. Yeah.
Get it to run, split up your 24-inch monitor into different sides. And in what's interesting, so with Windows Snap, you just basically snap and you're done. But it looks like they have different kinds of Windows management in there to allow you to configure them and split them and fade them. Fade them for productivity. So if you have one that you want to keep in focus, you can fade the others that are on.
This app is like incredibly in depth. There's so much you can do with it. I've only got to the part where I've split the screens, but there's a bunch of tutorials that I saw on YouTube that you can check out that allow you to do all that kind of stuff. You can make keyboard shortcuts that like will move different things. And say if I have like a gaming profile that has, the 1440p in the middle, like and you can switch between those really easily. There's a lot you can do. A lot of that I have like the free version, but a lot of that has to do with like I think it's like $30 or something for the paid version. But
they do have a pro version. Let's see if we get a price on this here really quick. It doesn't look very expensive. I'll have to look that up. I can't see. They have if again, I think it's just displayfusion.com if you want to go out and take a look at it. They're kind of standard. They have a free, a pro standard, a pro stream, a pro personal, a pro site, and a pro enterprise. So they what are they taking business from Microsoft? I mean, come on. So they got some stuff to do. I think that's the real, for a lot of folks, it's kind of like, well, I'm probably not going to upgrade my monitor, but it may be worth checking out Display Fusion if you're trying to do monitor management. And there just may be some things there. Bob, thanks for bringing it. I never heard of him before. I can't believe I've never heard of him.
Well, like I said, my whole thing was I got this, and then I was like, okay, how do I manage all this space? And I wanted to be able, like with my 34-inch, I would just snap the window over to one side or snap the window over the other. And I'm so used to doing that. I wanted to do that with this, but it wouldn't work with just within Windows. So there was like 3 different apps I went through, and the Display Fusion turned out to be the best one and the one that worked the best for me. And like I said, there's a ton of tutorials on YouTube on how to configure it and how to do all that. So it's worth checking out.
It's a good tip. I think that's a good tip. It's certainly in the circles we run in here. I've never heard of it before. So
I had never heard of any of the apps that I had used or installed, but it works. It works great. So yeah.
Cool. Ryan, let's wrap it with you. Last time we were on, you spent a bunch of time. We talked about cooling, and I used the word earlier, but you got kind of a bougie bilge of cooling out there. Why don't I show your screen, and why don't you talk us through it a little bit?
Sure. So, like you said, we talked a lot about cooling last time we were on, and at Think Computers last, 9 to 12 months, we've done a lot of reviews on these all-in-one coolers, kind of like I think Mike has one right now in his system from AlphaCool. We've looked at them from AlphaCool, Corsair, NZXT. All these companies make these just all-in-one enclosed cooling loops for your CPU. Then there's, a little step up, which is a full custom loop. And so I've got kind of the video paused here on my screen. I'll actually make this full screen here so we can see it a little better. So this is just kind of a side view of my custom loop. We worked with AlphaCool on this. They again, make these full all-in-one systems, as well as every single component that I've used here for the cooling system. So everything from radiators to CPU blocks, video card blocks, all the fittings, all the tubings, the reservoir, the pump to circulate, the fluid, the fans, everything related to the cooling of this build was an AlphaCool component. So we kind of worked with them. I hadn't done a custom loop in a computer in 10 plus years. So getting back into things, I was not nervous, but a little, anxious to start tearing, you think about tearing apart your RTX 2070 Super, right? Pulling the cooling off of it and exposing that PC board and making sure you're not damaging any components when you're doing that. And then just the thought of adding liquid into your case and your system that's not already in there from the factory. So we kind of go through, I'll back up a little bit here because that kind of shows the finished product, and then we'll show some of the glamour shots with it powered on. So yeah, we got a big box from AlphaCool. And of course the cat was checking it out, but I'm just sitting here pulling all these components out that came in this box that we got from them. And then I kind of go over every component that we used this build. So I talk about each one of those components, and I give the part numbers, down at the bottom of the screen and in the description. So if you were interested in any of them or had questions, just a quick and easy way to figure out what they are. So we just kind of look over all of these. One of the cool things is the GPU block and the video card are both enabled with Rgb lighting, so you can control that with a controller from AlphaCool, or if your motherboard supports the same kind of connector, you can utilize that as well. So we just kind of go through all of those components here, taking a look at the pump and connections. We've got the reservoir and everything here for your fluids, and then going through an ad here. We'll Out of that while that goes.
Yeah.
We don't want to.
Is beer a viable cooling liquid?
Probably do it. I wouldn't recommend it. You could probably run it in there for a little while and you'd be all
More
right.
like a beer tap, but then it would get warm. You probably wouldn't want that.
I think Jay's 2 cents actually tested that when he was doing Post Malone's build, because Post Malone he themed with the Bud Light, and I think they said it was easily a no.
Yeah, you might get away with it for a little while, but so here, I've got the video card out of the build that it was coming out of, and we pull the back plate off, and you start taking apart the.
Do you show the full process here? Because I was actually really interested in that, as how easy or difficult that was to do.
I don't show every screw coming out, but I mean, really, it's just taking apart a bunch of screws, pulling off these plates here, cleaning the card.
That part scares me, right, Ryan? Right there, like that GPU is wafered together, and you just kind of pull it apart. I'd break it for sure.
Just take your time, follow the instructions. They provide great instructions, all the components that you need to be successful in this, right? They've got so many screws and fittings, everything like that.
And it looks so sick when it's done. It's so worth it. It looks amazing.
It was fun. It's a lot of fun for the build. And you've got these components that just kind of screw on. This is a soft tubing build, so we use one type of fitting there for the tubing and all those fittings.
That's all the thermal paste you're supposed to use. That's it. Just a little. Oh.
So yeah, we've got a couple radiators. This one actually has 2 radiators in the build. I don't know if I showed that very well here, but whoops, let's swing back just a tiny bit.
I don't think I've ever seen your ears. It's weird to see it out there.
Yeah, without the big hands on. So we have a 240 millimeter radiator up front and a 360 in the bottom. So really the loop kind of goes from this reservoir, and the pump is built into the reservoir. And the flow goes out of that into our first radiator along the bottom, circulates through, and then up into the video card. And now the flow of liquid actually splits between the video card and the CPU. So it's a parallel loop at that point. So the flow kind of splits and circles through both of those at the same time, and then back out into the rest of the series loop. So then into the front radiator, into the reservoir, and back around. So this just kind of gives you a little different look. I think it's a little cleaner look when you run it in parallel as opposed to just a series all the way around the case. But no, I think it turned out pretty well. It's always kind of scary pumping fluid into your build for the first time, but yeah, there we go. Got some shots of the fluid going in, and then
pressure test you can do before you put the liquid in.
It's recommended. You want to make sure all those fittings are tight with your fingers, and then you actually run the system with just the cooling components powered on. You don't actually fully power on the system. And I had a jumper for the power supply, so you just hook that up to the power supply, and it's not connected to your motherboard. None of the other components. You can see here, I don't have the video card connected right now. Or the motherboard power, right? So none of those components are actually just the pump. So I cycle the water through, and you'll see a lot of times people having shop towels and stuff laid out because they're ready to fill it up and put a little bit of pressure into that tubing. Thankfully, I had 0 leaks in any of this process. So that I know of, yeah, right. I'm gonna skip out of Disney's ad real quick here again. But yeah, I've got a whole list of every component that we use, and affiliate links there if you're interested in taking a look at any of those. But then we kick it on for the first time, and we'll just let this kind of go as we're chatting. So no, it was a really good experience. Lots of fun. Love how it turned out. And I'm actually just about to tear it all apart and put it into a new case. Yeah. And we'll do a hard tubing build this time. So instead of the soft tubing, we're going to heat up some plastic and do a nice crisp look of hard tubing.
This already looks amazing, though. Like, I think this is one of the cleanest overall builds, but especially with that cooling, I think that looks great. I mean, because you almost, I guess I'd have to wait for another zoomed out shot. You can't tell it's not rigid. I guess towards the bottom, probably those start to flow a little bit, but I think it looks great. I'll be interested, though. So on the rigid, that's got to be a whole different I mean, even animal, a lot more measuring, getting your angles, making sure they're right. Because just, especially in such a tight spot, I've never done it before, but it sounds like it would be a big challenge. Is that something though you can do at home with with tools you probably have around the house? Or is there special stuff you need?
So they actually sent over a full like tube bending kit as well.
Okay.
I did have to buy a heat gun. So you can just get a heat gun at like Home Depot or Lowe's. But the tube bending kit comes with like all of the inserts for your tubing, so you can make those nice smooth bends without kinks. It has a tool to get exact bend angles, so 45 degrees. I think 180s on there, 90s. So you could get like perfect looking bends. Cleaning your the ends of your tubing is really important. You want to make sure it's nice and smooth, so you're not having any leaks there. But yeah, it's a whole different beast with the hard tubing. It'll be my first hard tubing build, so I'm again a little more anxious for that. But it's going to go into a InWin 925 that Bob just reviewed actually pretty recently, within the last month or so.
Yeah,
got that review up over on the website, as well as a video for it. But we're going to put in 2 360 millimeter radiators in this case, so we'll get a little better cooling.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Was 2 rads necessary for this build? Right, I mean, would you probably have seen pretty high thermal? I mean, I guess when you are running it through the GPU and CPU, I guess that's a whole different animal. And a 2070 Super is a really nice card too. Probably runs pretty hot when you're playing Apex.
Pretty cool. Even under load now, is
now for sure. But I mean, you probably need a decent cooling system like this, obviously. So 1 rad probably to cool both of those wouldn't have been enough.
No, that would not have been a wise choice for me. And the 905 in general doesn't have the best cooling properties. There's multiple reasons for that. It looks like it's a really nice looking case, and I'm pretty happy with it still. But the 925, I'm super excited to build in. So that'll be
cool.
Ryan, what do you use for coolant?
So this is Alpha Cool's. I forget their funny name for the coolant. It's not just standard distilled water. It does have some additional additives there for anti-corrosion and things like that. I think in the next build, I'm probably going to go with a coolant from Primo Chill. I haven't decided what color or look I'm going to go with. They have one that kind of has the swirly look to it. I go back and forth on that. I don't want the maintenance that requires. The teardown and cleaning is a lot more cumbersome and a lot more often in order to keep the loop performing well. So,
do they have one with glitter?
I mean, it is. It's kind of like a glittery look. It really is.
Yikes!
It looks really cool.
Yikes! It goes with the Disney ad that was on there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But no, it was a fun build. I'm excited to put together a video on the next one.
That's pretty cool. Bob, what do you give the video? This is kind of Ryan's debut, right?
So Ryan recently got into video editing. What's the piece of software that you use to do that, Ryan?
I use now you're asking me Express.
DaVinci. Okay.
Nice to use for me. Software. I think you can get it free. I think I paid for a little bit of an upgrade with some extra effects and plugins for like $10. So
yeah. So Ryan,
passing score. I think I made a post it on the site, so that's got to count for something.
Yeah, no, Ryan got into video editing, and I was really impressed with how everything came out. Because I got all these parts sent to him, and I was just like anxiously waiting, and then it just the final product came out, and I was really impressed. It came out really good. So
I did a nice job. Good work on the
Ryan. You were cutting out there just a little bit. What piece of software was it?
Hit Film Express.
Hit Film Express. Okay.
I saw Andrew asking if the radiator is chilling water before it hits the graphics card and CPU. Yes. So it goes through that one radiator before it hits the GPU and CPU, and then out to the other radiator up front.
Wait, is this supposed to cool things? I thought it was just supposed to look cool.
Does that too?
Yeah. Dude, that was the dumbest dad joke I've ever said. Well, that's all right. That's what it is. Well, I think good work, Ryan. We'll remind everyone, head over. We talked about a lot. Just head over to thinkcomputers.org and just peruse through, join the mailing list, So you're getting up to date on all the things that they're putting out. It's Bob's job. So they're doing a great job. It's not like me, because I'm like a slacker. Mike and I, we just kind of fake this thing. These guys actually do something over there. So you want to head over. I mean, if you want serious reviews and those kinds of things, head over thinkcomputers.org and just peruse there. And then make sure you're making the podcast. If you can't make it live Wednesday nights, you can download it on any podcast app and stay connected. I feel like we cover a lot, and I shouldn't say cover a lot of the same things, because I think it's pretty different, but I think our communities are very similar.
Yeah.
So kind of those enthusiasts. So Bob, Ryan, thanks for coming on tonight. Appreciate you guys. Have a great Christmas. It's tough to, like, as tech guys, like, we've already bought all the stuff we want, right? Right. I mean, look at behind you there, Bob. Like, you don't need anything more, right? I mean, what do you get? What kind of things do you guys get for Christmas? What that you don't already have?
I don't know. Like, my girlfriend was asking me, she's like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I was like, I have no clue, because I have everything that I actually want. I have, just like a nice dinner somewhere, whenever you can go out to eat again in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm just like, even now I was just thinking about something that I would want. I don't even
No, I understand. Ryan,
like work,
some quiet. Where I don't have to write reviews. Ryan, what about you? What are you hoping for? What are you hoping Santa brings? Got anything on the list?
Kind of the same way. I got this case, so I'm happy with it. I'd take some snow, but really, I think just some time off of work to spend some time on the build and improve video editing skills with some of that time off. That's about all I need.
Uyghur, what about you? What are you hoping Santa brings?
Well, see, this is a little confusing, because Hannah gave me the theme of the gifts this year. She said ham radio, but I said, I don't do you know what I would need in ham radio? Because she hasn't asked me, and I don't know. So it's probably something really creative and cool, knowing her. So I don't know. That's what she said. It was something ham radio related. So we will see. But same as you guys, I have bought a lot of ham radio gear this year, and I'm kind of, I already have most of the stuff I need. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what it is.
Yeah, well, it will come and go. For all our listeners, we're going to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. Fill in the holiday of your choice in there. We hope it's a good time as we head into 2021. It'll be interesting to see. 2020 has been such a dumpster fire of a year. It'll just be, and I'm not expecting the switch to flip on January 1, but I sure hope it does in a lot of ways. What a crazy year it has been. And yet it's been a great year in a lot of ways. There's been a lot of things. There's been a lot of good things. But I mean, there's been a lot of bad things that have happened, no doubt. But there's been sprinkled in there some opportunities and some good things. And I'd ask you, as you guys listen to this, what's been good in your world? What has gone right for you? What has been, I think for us, and I won't ask you guys this isn't Thanksgiving dinner, so I'm not going to ask you to say this, but I think for us, we've spent just more family time together, and that's just it's been kind of sweet. We'd kind of gotten out of that habit. Dinner had become kind of a whatever's available, jam it down your throat as fast as you can and move on to the next thing. And we're actually cooking together, and we're eating together and drinking wine together and just having we're kind of have a good time. So I don't take any regrets away from this time. And I think we take some good things away from it. Hopefully you have too. And I always just say, thanks for listening to us. This will be the last Home Gadget Geeks of the year. We'll be back in January with some more episodes. I think you guys are going to continue through the holiday schedule. So folks can head over thinkcomputers.org and catch the podcast while we're gone. A couple reminders on our way out. One, if you want to join the Discord group, and it's super active. You guys have a Discord group as well, right? It's pretty active, I think. Yeah. So join ours, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. If you go to thinkcomputers.org, you can, I'm sure there's a link over there somewhere, right? That they can.
Yeah, there is. I think I have thinkcomputers.org/Discord set up, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I think I set up a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure that's set up to do that. So.
Give that a try first. And then if you can't, head over to the site and grab it. Mike and I would love to hear your holiday message, by the way. So if you want to drop us a 30-second holiday message, you can do that. Head over to homegadgetgeeks.com And in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little microphone. Just click it. A 30-second holiday message. We'll play that when we come back in January. We'd love to hear from you. So get over there and get that done, and we'll play those in the early January shows. You can contact me. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. You can find me on Twitter @jcollison. Mike is @WegerTech. And I think that's all I'm going to pimp tonight. We want to say thanks for coming out. And if you're listening live, thanks for staying around. We're going to do just a tiny bit of post show just because that's what we do. Thanks for coming out tonight. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Gentlemen, thank you for your good work. Sure is a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. Just
always good to talk tech. It's one of my favorite things. Instead of like actually reading about it, to actually talk to other people about it. It's a lot of fun. So
is it different like when you guys are guests as opposed to having to host the show? I always find it's just easier to be a guest on somebody's show.
I'm always like the one in charge. Like I'm always okay. This is the next thing we're talking about, or it's just like now I just relax.
We're structured. I feel not that you're unstructured, but we're like right. It's the same formula every time, right? We get the intro. We talk about our reviews, Case Mod Friday, the news, and then we talk about what's coming up, right? So with your guys' show, it feels much more fluid, laid back, whereas we're more hitting those points and discussing each one. As we go. I really like
it's a different style, right?
Yeah.
It's just a different style. It gets to a different, I don't think anybody comes to listen to the reviews because we don't do a ton of them. And so, but
it's our show. They probably go to their show for the reviews. Yeah.
You guys, for sure. And you guys, but we're kind of more just conversation back and forth. What do you think? Let's speculate. I don't know. Let's goof around a little bit. And so it's just kind of a different style. But I know, Saturday mornings when I'm hanging out with Dave Jackson, he kind of runs the show, and I just get to sit here and goof off, and that's just super fun. And this is pretty easy too. We default to this format because it's easy. It's easy to do, but it's fun. I really enjoy doing it. It's great having you guys on. We'll have you. We'll get past CES. Are you guys doing much with CES and how that's happening?
We're going to cover it in the capacity that's online and stuff like that, but we're not going anywhere.
No. But I mean, they're doing some virtual stuff, right? I mean, they're still trying to carry on virtually, right?
Yeah. They're trying. I get tons of emails, not as many as I'm usually getting around this time, but like from some of the bigger companies. Yeah, they're Lisa Su from AMD is still doing the full CES keynote. I know I saw some stuff from NVIDIA coming out. But
did you go? You covered last year. Did you go?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, boy, there was COVID all over the place. Nobody knew it. Nobody knew it. But it was everywhere.
That was the super spreader event.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah. I'm telling you.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
You have to think that I would say, what do you think? 40% of people there were from overseas.
Yeah,
easily. Yeah.
Sure.
So, I mean, and it's so compact because like I typically get sick every year anyways, just because you're around so many people, you're shaking hands. If you go on the show floor, you're like crammed in there. So it's typically I went
to the international booth area because I just wanted to see it. You guys always told me how like packed and like crazy it is, and I was like, I need to see this for myself. Yeah. You were not kidding, and like that is like,
oh yeah.
If you showed that image to people right now or earlier in the year, they would freak out. It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, just how different it is this year. I was in London the first part of December last year for a week. And, the news was just starting to break. We were like, maybe there's a thing. And, that was early December. And then by CES, we were like, oh, should we think about locking down? China was locking down. They were getting ready to, do all those things. Just such a different what we know a year later versus what we knew back then. It's crazy.
And what we thought we knew back then.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we always, I think a lot of people said, like you just said, CES just made it. Like that in the Super Bowl were probably, because we had the Super Bowl in like late January, right?
February.
And was it early Feb?
I think it was like February 2nd or 3rd.
Okay. So let's say early Feb. And then they have a big parade in Kansas City to
Yeah.
celebrate this. And like, you just have to imagine, like, oh my God, that was raging by that point. And we didn't know, nobody knew, we're just, and then shut it down. By March, they were trying to shut everything down. So it's just nuts. Just nuts.
Yeah. It's been interesting. The one thing that you were talking about, like the best thing about the year, I think that all of these companies have finally come up with good online solutions for everything, right? Like for the longest time, I'm like, why aren't movies like coming out streaming at the same time they're coming out in the theater? Or why don't, we all of these like delivery services and everything else, like everything is made for like people like me who don't leave the house. So it's like, it's good that we all these companies have stepped up to do that. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's
a good thing,
like
but
so quickly and did it that like they could have done it beforehand, but the profit probably wasn't there, or the market maybe
wasn't there, Ryan. Sometimes we had older folks in leadership positions who just were unsure that it would work. And it was like, I mean, there's a lot of leadership in corporate America that struggle to send people home. I don't know, I can't watch them. Can't see what they're doing. I don't know if their productivity is going to be high because I can't manage them that way. I mean, it's required a whole different way that we manage people, right? And then we don't talk about this very often too. We're gonna have to do some things for our essential workers when this is over. Like, they have been out there. Think about all the Amazon delivery people in the Popeye's chicken, fast food places where those people have been out on the front lines, right? Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, right?
Chick-fil-A
Out on the
down to a system though.
Oh, like, it's so perfect.
You would like, there's a Chick-fil-A down the street from my house, and their line like goes forever, but they're so fast, and they have people out there on like the tablets doing everything, and like they have the people in the bubble. Like this is where like they have figured it all out, and they've adapted so well. It's crazy, and everybody who works there is super happy to be working there. Like, I've never seen it. I've never seen anything else like it.
It's one of the best run companies ever. Like, not even just the best run fast food, just how fast they adapt, their way of going about things, the people they hire. I mean, yeah, because even when the line's long too, they have the new option where you can pull up into a stall, plug in what number you're in if you ordered online, and it's just out to you, and you can beat usually the line. I mean, they're just, I love Chick-fil-A. The way they run. I was like, man, I want to open a franchise from them.
Yeah, I think
it's only $10K a month. Now they take a high split on the revenue, but
like they're one of the low
$10K to start is what I meant.
Yeah, they're one of the lowest to start, but then they take a percentage of all of your earnings.
Yeah.
Brian says I read somewhere that the NFL is considering offering free tickets to the Super Bowl to healthcare workers as they get
vaccinated.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that's the next step for us to figure out is, okay, now what do we, as we are vaccinated, what does that mean? And what does that change? And I don't know if anybody knows yet, what that necessarily,
they know how to make some funny memes about it. I can tell you that there are some some funny TikToks and Instagram videos.
And it's
like the short term, you'll have like an app on your phone that has like your vaccination, and you'll like, especially if you fly overseas, you'll have to show that to enter, or at least initially, probably.
Yeah. Tony Rayner says he's getting vaccinated on Tuesday. So, it's good that it's starting to roll out. It's just a new phase, that we're going into where it's okay now.
It's like, does this solve things? Like, what does this do? For all of us who are not in healthcare, who have no idea. It's like, what does that mean? Can I go out? Can I open the door and go outside?
Yeah, masks. No masks. What do we do? How long do those stay around? I've gotten really comfortable with them, and so I just don't even think twice. They hang in my car. I take them out and clean them at appropriate times. If I'm gonna, and I don't go out very much, but if I do, just throw it on. I went into we ordered out tonight, and I went into a restaurant. Of course, nobody was masked in there except the workers on the inside. But I walked in, and that used to feel awkward, and now it's like,
yeah. It's a lot of other cultures. It's pretty like if you've ever flown to like an Asian country, if you go to the airport, everybody's wearing a mask anyways, even before COVID. So it's like they're pretty used to it. So I think we're going to get pretty used to it as well. I think.
Do you think it'll stick around?
I don't
Probably till 2022.
Maybe for the year, right? I don't know. Tony would know more on that. I just don't. It's kind of like everybody's so anxious to not. I shouldn't say everybody, because there's a lot of people who appreciate it too, but there's so many people who fight it. I just, I imagine the second they get vaccinated, they're going to be like, I'm out, I don't have to do it anymore. And that's going to cause a whole bunch of new rifts of shaming and, some of those kinds of things. Like, what the? So, I've actually enjoyed kind of the stability of working here and, doing a lot of the cooking and kind of closing in for a year. I kind of enjoyed it. It's weird. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to become a hermit and stay this way very long, but it's been like I said, it's been good spending time with my kids, and it's been good. So my kids are adults and they can drink, so that's not a bad thing either. Ryan, sorry that you have young kids, and that's a lot harder for sure.
They drink too. It's just chocolate milk. So
Uyghur, yours are really.
The kid side of this is the hardest, for sure.
Do you remember any of this?
Emmett will, my oldest. He's 4. He'll remember some of it. I mean, I remember some trips I went on when I was 4 and 5. So,
Ryan, how old are your kids?
5 and 7. So first grader and a second year of preschool. So he will for sure.
In 2050, they'll be like, 2060, they'll be like, back during the pandemic, back when we we were real.
44. I hope they don't talk like that when they're 44.
All right, guys. If you listen live, thanks for coming out. Appreciate you guys. So hold on. Tony said one more thing. He said, it helped reduce, because I asked, help reduce incidences and severity, I suspect, but not eliminate it for a while. And then he says they've been working COVID for 10 months straight. Didn't take the chance. So I wouldn't take the chance either and get it done. If you're listening live, thanks for coming out. We'll see you guys in 3 weeks from tonight, as Mike and I come back together and we talk about 2021. Everything will be new, whole new year, new changes. It'll be sunshine and rainbows and fairy dust.
Sunshine, lollipops, and what's that song?
Right? Was that John Denver you were trying to? No,
I don't know. It's from something.
Okay, we better stop. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Take care.